will be brief. First off, let me start out by offering again my condolences to the family of firefighter Elvis Reyes that we lost this week, It's always sad when we lose a city employee, but particularly one who was a great piece of this community and a great firefighter. Our family at City Hall is mourning with his family, and we look forward to celebrating his life in the coming days. I'm here today to give an update on our violence prevention efforts, particularly our state of emergency, which, by the way, I am renewing. Some of you may know we are renewing the state of emergency for another month. After, we had a spate of quiet days on our streets, but the last 2 days we saw 2 homicides and some shootings. But today I'm going to call on the chief and our corporation counsel to give updates on the things that we are doing in our violence prevention efforts. But the one thing that I wanted to touch on today is our initial state of emergency. So as you know, in July, I said that we are going to use every tool in our toolbox to combat gun violence, and the state of emergency has given us those tools. One of the things that stood out to me over the last month in declaring the state of emergency are illegal parties and gatherings that are taking place. If you look at many of the homicides that we had, they've taken place in people gathering in public parks, in locations where they don't have a liquor license, in locations where they don't have an entertainment permit, in a location where they don't have adequate security, in locations where they are not zoned or authorized to have these parties. And there have been far too many homicides as a result of these illegal gatherings. Now, we can't go around and chase all of these gatherings. We have our ways of gathering intelligence, but we need the public's help that when you hear of these type of gatherings taking place, we need to know about them so we can shut them down. And we have shut down many, and as we hear about them, we are working proactively to shut them down. I'll give you an example of some of these gatherings I'm talking about that led to homicides. North Clinton Avenue, late at night. People ended up killed because of that gathering. Charlotte Beach, 2:30 in the morning. Someone shot and killed. Lau Avenue, late night, unsanctioned gathering. Someone dead. The toxic mix of these illegal gatherings and people who cannot talk out their problems has led to this deadly rage of what we've seen of individuals being killed. And we're not going to tolerate that in our city. The other point I'll make in terms of things that we are seeing that is becoming incubators of violence is personal disputes. 90% of the homicides that we are seeing in our neighborhoods are all personal disputes. Family members, friends who know each other, they escalate, they pull out a gun and decide to shoot each other. Those are things that we need to work on as a community as it relates to conflict resolution. The law department has been focused on shutting down these venues, and the police department has been collaborating with county, state, and federal law enforcement partners to arrest our most violent criminals, as you know. As an example, 57, and the number may be higher today, Chief, 57 illegal guns taken off the street in the last 15 days. Think about that. That is staggering. That is a staggering number of illegal guns that have been taken off the streets. We will continue to focus on taking those illegal guns, and Lyndon, the chief, will talk about that in a minute. But again, I want to make sure that the community knows that when you see or hear of these gatherings that are taking place where there is alcohol being served, where they're gathering after hours, we need to know about these things as soon as possible so we can stop them. I am all for having a good time. I want Rochester to be known as a place to have a good party, a great place to celebrate, a great place to have a good time. But we are not going to tolerate lazy people getting around the law to try to throw parties that are not safe and are leading to violence. We're going to shut those down. We're going to continue to target them, and we're not going to tolerate it in our city. I'm going to now ask the chief to come forward. As you know, the chief has been working on the ROC initiative. I want him to give an update on that. And then I will also talk about the violence prevention efforts. And I want to remind people that when we talk about violence prevention, we're talking about the three-legged stool of prevention, intervention, and suppression. And those are the things we want to talk about. So I want to have the chief come give an update on the ROC initiative. And then after the chief, I'll have Linda Kingsley, our corporation counsel, talk about the tools that we are using as it relates to the state of emergency. And before I bring them up, just let me say this also about the state of emergency. The state of emergency is a tool. I don't have a magic wand in my briefcase or in the mayor's office that when I go like this, that everything changes immediately. We use multiple tools in order to help solve this problem of gun violence that we're facing in our community. And the state of emergency is just one of those tools among many of the other things that you're going to hear about that we've been talking about since January. So, Chief, if you want to give an update on the ROC initiative.
Thank you. First, I'd like to take an opportunity to express my condolences to Chief Hernandez and all the members of the Rochester Fire Department in your recent loss. As you have supported us, so we will support you. Some update on the ROC initiative. As we all know, the number of murder victims in the city of Rochester has risen to an unacceptable level. This year alone, 60 people to date have lost their lives in violence in our city, 51 of them to firearms. And as the mayor alluded to earlier, the majority of these are disputes that instead of being solved through words, people decided to pick up arms and solve their disputes with violence. Most of them are known to each other, and these acts escalated from previous grievances against each party that resulted in homicides. To combat this, last week I introduced the ROC Initiative. The ROC Initiative brings together local, state, and federal agencies into an unprecedented partnership. This partnership, as we said before, initially began in June on a smaller scale with members of the Rochester Police Department, the United States Marshals Violent Fugitive Task Force, the New York State Police, the Sheriff's Office, the Monroe County District Attorney's Office, and the Monroe Crime Analysis Center. We've continued working with these partners, and in August, due to the success of this, the ROC Initiative welcomed, in addition, federal partners from the ATF, the FBI, the DEA, HSI, and the U.S. Attorney's Office. In addition to this, the Rochester Police Department was able to increase our presence on the U.S. Marshals Violent Fugitive Task Force to full 6-time members. We are allowed to do this because we did have a graduating class of 19 new officers that we have recently put on the road. So that allowed us to shift some of our manpower, fill a few vacancies, and then shift over to the Marshal's office. So all total, we have temporarily assigned 12 members of our 4th Platoon Patrol to the Marshal's Task Force. This initiative consists of a laser-focused approach to specific offenders that are bringing harm to our community. Again, it is intelligence-driven, it is data-driven, and it is going after known violent offenders. To this date, the initiative has arrested 41 offenders for firearm-related offenses. These 41 offenders range from illegal possession of firearms arrests all the way up to murder suspects. During these arrests, a total of 21 firearms have been recovered to date. I might add we recovered another last night and another early this morning, so that was 2 within a 15-hour period just from this task force. In addition, 25 firearm arrests from patrol have been referred for federal prosecution, up from 19, I believe it was last week when I updated you. So in total, the Rochester Police Department has recovered 591 firearms this year from the streets of Rochester. As we move forward, I will continue to evaluate this program and do our best to hold those that prey on our community accountable. We will also do our best to keep everyone updated on a weekly basis as things unfold. Thank you.
Thank you. And as I said, we will continue to provide these updates regularly, and that's why we want to do that. I wanted to make sure that let folks know who else are with us. We're going to hear from our Corporation Counsel, Linda Kingsley, Dr. Shirley Green, our Commissioner, Department of Recreation and Human Services, and Victor Saunders, the Mayor's Advisor on Violence Prevention Services. Mr. Rooney, I was trying to tell you to come on up. We're going to mention 311. Yeah, come on up. Mr. Rooney, who's standing in for Mike Soretto, our Director of 911 Services. 311 continues to be an important number to call, and Corporation Counsel Kingsley will talk about that in a second. And Corporation Counsel, if you want to come up to talk about the emergency order. Again, we're renewing this. We continue to look at it every month. We recalibrate and change as necessary, and I'll have the Corporation Counsel come up and say a few things, and then I'll come back up and talk about some of the other preventative initiatives that we're working on.
As the mayor said, the goal of this administration has been all along to not shut down the city, to work with responsible businesses, to seek change from those businesses that are willing to make change, but then to close those businesses and those locations that are unwilling to play within the rules and to play safely. We have seen a number of incidents since we've come in January where gun violence is connected back to gatherings. And they're usually at establishments that are either operating illegally, sometimes in a location, sometimes just in a park, or a location that is legal to operate but has gotten out of control. For that reason, the law department has devoted substantial resources to dealing with these establishments in conjunction with the Rochester Police Department and with help from the neighborhood service centers. They are our eyes and ears in the community, and they can bring the problems back to us, and then we can help them hopefully prevent another violent act. We have since January closed a number of establishments that have either had excessive problems with violence or chose to operate without getting the proper licenses. We have also worked with other venues, and I think that's even more important, so that they could stay open responsibly. The latest challenge we're having is pop-up parties, which get advertised on social media. And often, quite frankly, they will on social media not list the location and making it clear that they're doing so to try to hide from the police till the last possible moment. It will be in a space that is often without any approvals, often a space that's not code compliant. And you can just think of all the disasters that can come from that and have come from that in other cities. We cannot and will not allow establishments to have illegal clubs, illegal gatherings, when there's no liquor license, no entertainment license, no business permit, no Department of Health license if it's required, and again, often not in compliance with the building and fire code. We're just not going to do it. As we speak, talking about pop-up parties, an order issued by Mayor Evans under his power under the Gun Violence Emergency Proclamation has just been served on 398 West Main Street, where a pop-up party has been advertised for Saturday night. The location does not have any of the appropriate licenses or approvals to allow such a gathering, and as we said, we cannot allow this kind of thing to happen. So the mayor signed the order, it's been posted on the property, and served on the building owner. Since the issuance of the gun violence state of emergency, we have on several occasions prepared similar orders for problem businesses. The emergency proclamation and the orders that it gives the mayor the power to sign really are, and the mayor has said this before, serve as a carrot and a stick. I have had numerous meetings where I've stood with a signed order in my hand and gotten cooperation from businesses, so we did not have to post it and close it. But as you can see, when the risk is there, we're going to do what we need to do. And finally, as the mayor mentioned, we can't do this alone. We need people to tell us when they see gatherings happening in warehouses, in homes. People are turning homes into party venues with bars with 200 people in them. We've had to shut down locations like that. When you see it on social media, when it's on your block, call 311, give them the information. It will be forwarded to the police and to my department, and we will do our best to address the problem before there's another statistic.
And let me be clear. The community has been loud and clear with my administration. They're sick of gun violence, and they're sick of individuals who thinking that they can turn venues that are not supposed to be entertainment locations into entertainment locations to make a quick buck, but more importantly, they create a danger for the neighborhood and for the individuals attending. So we are not going to tolerate that in the city, and the emergency order, as long as that is in effect, we will continue to use that tool to stop those things. So again, I want to reiterate, when you hear about these things, if you see these things, make sure that you call 311. I also want to talk about the work that is taking place in our violence prevention efforts. As you know, we brought out the Peace Collective, which is a consortium of human service agencies and philanthropies to invest in community-based violence reduction initiatives. We're using $5 million from ARPA, our ARPA allocation to provide seed money for that collective, and I wanted to give an update on that. Victor Saunders and other members of our staff are evaluating more than 50 proposals that have been submitted in response to that RFP to be part of programs like job training, conflict resolution, and reentry from incarceration. We hope that we will have soon, Victor, right? Soon. The announcement on who's going to be awarded to take part in the Peacemaker Fellowship. Victor's office is also moving forward with its expansion of Pathways to Peace, which now has more than 30 street outreach workers, up from 15 workers from when we first took office in January. And also our Peacemaker Fellowship pilot is also making progress, which is in Northwest Rochester, with people applying for those fellowships. That goes after individuals who may have the propensity to commit gun violence, may have been victims of gun violence themselves. That gives us the opportunity for them to be able to turn their lives around. Dr. Green and her team at DRHS are also playing an active role in our crime prevention and reduction strategy through prevention. We've expanded the size of our crisis intervention services to offer more healing and support to those who call 911 or 211 for help. And we're adding staff to our front desk at our centers to make these centers a true safe haven for kids in our neighborhood. We continue to look for all types of opportunities that we can have to make people have the opportunity to look at positive activities and not get involved in negative ones, because that is the preventative piece that is just so important. So it's about prevention, intervention, and suppression. We will continue to provide these updates on violence. We want people to understand in this community that no level of violence is acceptable. Be it one homicide, 50 or 60. One life lost is one life too many. And we're going to keep redoubling our efforts to make sure that we work hard on this. The last thing I want to say is I also want to give thanks to all the community partners. There are so many people in this community that are working on a regular basis to ensure that they are helping to stem the tide of the violence that we see in our community. They have already prevented lots of violence that could have happened had they not been involved and been in the trenches. And we want to make sure that we support those organizations, that we hold up those organizations, that we highlight those organizations that are doing a lot of work on the ground. They're not in front of a news camera. They're not bragging about what they're doing on social media. They are just doing the work. And unfortunately, we live in a society now where people think that how you get the work done is posting about it. Twitter, social media, I know you media folks love that. That's not how the work gets done. The work gets done on the ground through blood, sweat, and tears. And there are so many organizations in our community that are doing that, and we thank them for that work. I want to thank the men and women of the Rochester Police Department, our fire department, our 911 emergency management services, the folks that work in Department of Recreation and Human Services, violence prevention, fire department. All these departments are rowing in the same direction to make sure that we have transformational change in our city. So with that, I will take a couple of questions from you all and or any of the folks here that you might have questions for. So let's start. Any questions? Mr. Love.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Per RPD's open data portal, roughly 75% of all the homicides this year are confined to just 4 zip codes. 14621, last I checked, leads the city. Why do you feel that is when you get down to the root causes of crimes that some neighborhoods are facing that others are not? And how would this, state of emergency or other projects you've talked about help those particular zip codes in need?
Yeah, we are targeting 14621, 14621, 14605. Those are 14618. Those are zip codes where you're seeing a disproportionately amount of crime, and that I think also gets to a larger issue. Sometimes people will ask, why don't you just blanket the whole city with stuff? And we know that that is a targeted area. I think that those areas in the past have had lots of disinvestment. That disinvestment has then manifested itself into crimes that we have seen. And that is why you saw earlier this week when we broke ground on our Buy the Block program, or when we are pushing programs in at at the International Plaza. What we are doing to try to ameliorate some of those things that you are seeing in those zip codes are making sure that we push through with resources, particularly the preventative resources. The Peacemaker Fellowship, for example, is in that 14608 neighborhood in the Northwest, because that's where we've seen a disproportionate amount of shootings. So we are making sure that we are being smart and not just throwing resources all over the place, but targeting them to the areas that have the most need. In the northeast section of the city is where we're seeing most of those challenges. The 25 poorest zip codes in the city, in New York State. 25 poorest zip codes in New York State. 5 of them are in the city of Rochester. The 5 poorest zip codes in New York State, if you look at the top 5, 3 of them are in the city of Rochester. And they are those zip codes that we talk about regularly: 14621, 14605, 14608, 14611. So, and these are areas that we have to continue to redouble our efforts on, because there are people that live in those neighborhoods that don't like what they are seeing. They feel as though they are hostages in their home. The other reason why it's important, why everyone in the county should care about those zip codes, and why I care about it here at City Hall, is because when someone turns on your station and they see violence, they don't know that the violence might be confined to a specific geographic area. They automatically think, oh, the whole city is bad, downtown, which, by the way, is one of the safest areas in the county, if you look at the numbers through the open data portal. But the average person doesn't look at that. So that is why we have to focus in on these zip codes and on these areas where we see violence, because that violence affects everything in our community, and that investment in prevention, suppression, and intervention, particularly in those areas, are important. It's why when you go on North Clinton Avenue today, you'll see the Community Affairs Bureau parked there to say to those neighbors, we're here for you, we support you, and we want to partner with you to stop a lot of this nonsense that we're seeing. And when I say nonsense, that's exactly what it is. None of this is altruistic. None of this is people defending honor. It's all nonsense. People losing their lives. These last homicides that we've had the last 2 days, arguments. These aren't things that are serious issues. People are dying over foolishness, and it needs to stop. Mucinek. Right.
But the gatherings that took place at the art centers. As part of the solutions, is more cameras a part of the solution?
I think cameras are always important because they're a good investigative tool, but that is not the only solution. And I think, let me clarify, our centers close at what time? 9 o'clock. Our centers close at 9 o'clock. So our centers weren't open. Those shootings that we saw around those times on city property where people were trespassing after being closed at 9 o'clock were 2:30 in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning. The beach, 2 o'clock in the morning. So I want to be clear with the public. These shootings are taking place at times where either people are either trespassing on property and doing it after hours. But to answer your question, I think cameras are a good deterrence, but the biggest deterrence is that we have to make sure that that we reiterate to people that you cannot be on property after it closes, number one, and that we are proactive in hearing about when people are gathering and that people are calling us and letting us know when that happens. And we need to be able to do that because it is impossible for our law enforcement partners to patrol and be everywhere all at the same time. I can't have a police officer inside someone's house and then there's an argument happening inside of their house and they don't like that this person disrespected that person, so they blast them 3 times in the kitchen. That's a true story. The chief can't go in there and do anything about that. So there's larger issues that we have to make sure that we deal with, particularly as it relates to conflict resolution. And that investment is so important. And you'll hear more about that in the coming weeks, about how we want to make sure that we give people the resources to be able to have conversations, get trained in how you resolve a conflict. So because you don't like what someone said to you on social media, so you see them when you're driving down the street, so you get out, confront them, and shoot them. That's another true situation that happened. These are the types of things that law enforcement and any of the folks that are standing up here just can't stop without the support of the broader community. We are living in times that we have never seen, where anger and firearms, illegal firearms, are a toxic mix. And I say illegal firearms because if you go back and check, in Monroe County last year, not a single person was murdered by a legal firearm. Think about that. So that tells you the challenge that we have with illegal firearms. All right, I'll take 2 more questions. Anybody else before I go back to Mr. Love?
Tracking those illegal firearms, how do you stop the flow of these?
All we can do from our level is that we can make sure that we use our intelligence and that we collaborate with our partners. And I think that those are 2 key important things that we have to do. Chief, I don't know if there's anything else you want to add on tracking illegal firearms, but I think collaboration and using intelligence are extremely important.
Yeah, just the key message to take from that is that most of our crime guns, that is a gun that we've recovered that was used in a crime, so an illegal weapon, at one point was a legal weapon, registered in New York State, either stolen from the homeowner misplaced it, perhaps the registered owner has a substance abuse problem and sold it, traded it illegally, but by and large, New York State is still a self-supply state. So the majority of our crime guns are guns that were once legally purchased, registered in New York State. A smaller percentage comes from out of state, from Ohio, Pennsylvania. Our partners do interdiction strategies on that. And we are seeing, a small uptick in ghost guns. About 10% of our crime guns right now are ghost guns. But by and large, please, legal gun owners, be responsible. Secure your guns, make sure they're in a gun safe, don't leave them in your car. If you have a relative or a family member who has a substance abuse problem and has access to a legally owned weapon, then you should probably be letting us know so maybe we can make arrangements to get those guns secured before they're traded for something illegal on the streets.
And for any individuals that says, hey, sometimes you hear rumors about, where guns may be. Let us know. Let us know. You can do it anonymously, and then we can go and check it out and make sure that we do that, particularly for ones that might be flowing among the I-90 corridor. We want to go after and cut off the supply of individuals that think they want to bring illegal weapons onto our streets that end up wreaking havoc. We want to stop that, and that is a big part of our strategy, but we have to work with our federal partners, and I thank them for their help in helping us to do that. Love.
Thank you. My other question was also for Chief Smith, if I may.
Chief.
But when people are making these phone calls to 311, whether they're trying to report illegal gatherings or parties out of control, a lot of times, people, like it was mentioned, people know who's causing the trouble, but they're afraid to speak out because they're worried that they or their family will be targeted. What message do you want to give to the public out there that they can make these reports and
So anyone who wishes to remain anonymous can stay anonymous. Really, we just need kind of the bare bones information about where to start to look. It's a great big internet out there, and it's a big city out there with a lot of locations. But anyone who wants to give information certainly can stay anonymous. I can also tell you that we've increased our staffing in 311, supplementing it with some light-duty injured officers that aren't able to work the street. And as such, we've increased our intake in 311. So pretty much you're going to get a live person when you call 311 now. We're keeping up very well there.
And I will tell you, the mayor's office, because people see the mayor on TV or they see me at an event, people call the mayor's office all the time. And they sometimes don't want to leave their name, and we forward that information on to the respective departments to check it out. And we've had lots of success on those. A lot of those things don't make the news, but lots of success on things that we've stopped as a result of those anonymous tips. So we encourage those. We just need the information like the chief said. Last question, Mr. Mucinek.
Mayor, I know you said that you're going to extend the state of emergency for another month. Let's say we get to the end of the month and it expires. Does that mean we're going to lose the ability to have the U.S. Marshals helping out the police department?
No, that is not. That relationship has been budding even before the state of emergency. So we would not lose that. And in fact, as the chief mentioned, he has been able to provide even more officers to the U.S. Marshals Task Force, which has been absolutely amazing in terms of helping us to be able to take what I call the worst of the worst off the streets, individuals who have been wreaking havoc in this community for a long time and gotten away with it. And they've been helping us stop that. So, again, I want to thank you all for coming. We will continue to give updates. We like to try to have positive news, but we want to continue to give updates on the state of emergency as it happens. And we will continue to reevaluate our strategies and tactics as we look at data on the ground, and we recalibrate, we change, and we do that. Obviously, when things are under investigation, we can't talk about everything that we're doing, but to the best of our ability, we will continue to update the public on our public safety strategy and the tools that we are using. So thank you very much, everybody. Thanks for being here. Thank you.